Hey folks, BlackCross here, and welcome back to another video game review, guys. I know it seems kind of weird that I have another video review shortly after releasing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but here's the thing, I've been behind on recording videos and stuff, so I've got a lot of games that I've been playing recently and stuff like that. And of course, one of those games was Hi-Fi Rush. Yes. That infamous game that has been talked about endlessly since the start of last year. Last year it was exclusively released under the Microsoft brand, and it got a silent release. Basically, no one knew about this until it literally got released. And shortly after it got released, oh boy howdy did it blow up. Everyone was praising it to high heavens, and for good reasons after I played through it myself. But here's the thing though, do I have an Xbox? No, I do not. So how did I play it? Well, rumor had it that it was supposed to be getting a PlayStation and Nintendo release sometime in 2024. Well, we got the PlayStation 5 version, but so far the Switch version has yet to have been announced. Either it's because of the so-called Switch 2 successors fixing to come around, or they're having complications with the coding for the Switch per se. I'm not sure. But either way, we've got the PlayStation 5 version of Hi-Fi Rush, and I was very excited to play that. So, how was it? What did I think of it? Not gonna lie, it really met my expectations. Mostly because of the fact of the gameplay and the story, all of which was entertaining. But how does it fare for it being a rhythm game? Especially to one like myself who isn't good with rhythm, or more specifically as my running gag is, I don't get rhythm. So with that, the question is it still good despite the fact that you're not good at rhythm games? And the answer is yes. It is still actually really good, and it is still very much playable even if you're not good at rhythm games. Specifically if you play it on easy and normal. If you play it on easy and normal, it's actually a little bit manageable, especially considering the fact that there are options that are there for you whenever you need them. It's when you get to hard mode and up is whenever those particular mechanics that you could implement are no longer going to be used, and you have to literally do what is basically needed for the rhythm itself. Let's go ahead and throw this out of the way before I actually talk about the rhythm aspects of Hi-Fi Rush, because that's basically its biggest formula, is the rhythm base. The gameplay itself is literally Devil May Cry. I'm not even exaggerating. Devil May Cry 4, 5, and that abomination that I shall never mention in this household ever again. Yes, it is very much a DMC clone. Well, not really a clone, more like a admirer of DMC per se. The gameplay is very similar to DMC in the way in which how you progress through the level, how you play through the game, how you explore the world and stuff, which is great. Thing is though, is that even though yes, exploring the worlds and yes, being able to fight the enemies and stuff like that still very much plays like Devil May Cry, is very much different in the sense of one single mechanic, and that is the rhythm that's being put into the game. For those that don't know, the main character Chai has his MP3 player practically installed into his chest and arm, and the entire world moves to the beat, and therefore so does the gameplay. The gameplay moves according to the beat itself, and based on the beat will depend on how the gameplay is going to be. And depending on your timing on those beats depends on how the gameplay will play through. In some cases, it works out really well. And depending on how well your rhythm is, it's really well done. But if you're like me, who then chances are you're not going to see that big of a difference in terms of gameplay volume, but you'll still play through it and you'll still be able to beat through it nonetheless. Especially, like I said, if you beat it through easy and normal. And with relatively 12 stages, that's not a lot compared to the 20 that is known for. But when you beat the game, even though it only has just those 12 stages, there is a bunch of stuff that you can do in this game. For starters, number one, you can collect costumes. There are 3 different forms of combat minigames that you can engage with, followed by multiple secret rooms that you have to look for. There's even this wall known as the Hall of Fame, which basically is a list of achievements in order to complete the entire thing. So believe me whenever I say this, there's a lot to do in this game despite how short the story is, technically. And that's not a bad thing in my personal opinion. If the story is short, you better have a lot of content behind the game to help kind of extend that gameplay to a certain degree. And that's the good thing about Hi-Fi Rush. For its base price that it has, which is currently right now set at $30 digitally right now. There is no physical release, sadly. But for $30, you get a lot for the package itself. There's a lot in this game, and I was very surprised. There are a few key things that should be mentioned about this game when it comes to its rhythm, because they play a big role in terms of how the game is going to be functioned into your gameplay style. The biggest and the main one that I want to talk about is of course that of the parry. Now, in some cases, the parry works really well, and when you time your parry to that of the beat, it's a perfect parry in which where you're able to execute other combo moves that would work against the enemies and stuff. But then there's like the mandatory parries. These are parries in which where either the bosses or the enemies will force a parry move in which where you have to time your parry to that of the beat sequence. It will give you a sequence and then you have to mash the button to that beat. So in some ways it is still rhythm, but if you're playing it on normal or easy, you can switch to it to where you can hold the button, the parry button, and it basically registers the entire thing. So really you don't have to worry about that. But if you're playing it on hard or any other mode higher than that, then you have to do it based on the beat itself. And you will not get past that until you get it perfect in sync. And it wasn't easy for me. I'm going to say it right now, it wasn't easy. I've only been able to beat hard mode currently right now, but from where I played it, it was pretty challenging just from the beat. From the parry beats alone. That was probably the hardest part of the game. The gameplay itself isn't really that hard, and I mean, depending on how you got your overall special moves and stuff like that set up, and if you've got everything in the game, like max health and everything, going through the harder modes, I imagine wouldn't be that difficult. I say that now, but like I said, it won't be that difficult. The real challenging part will be mostly the parries, because again, you'll be subjugated to mandatory parries throughout the entire game. There are ways that you can get around this parry depending on how skilled you are with the game, and I've actually found myself getting used to this. It doesn't work all the time, but you can avoid these mandatory parries. But there will be a couple times where you can't avoid that. You're going to be stuck with those demanding parries regardless of what you do. The second thing that I should mention in regards to the rhythm base is the scoring system. For those that don't know, Devil May Cry goes through a scoring system, basically a ranking system, in which where depending on how your combo moves are, depends on your ranking. The same thing follows in Hi-Fi Rush. There are 3 categories. The overall score, which is basically your combat, the time that it takes to beat that particular battle, and finally, the true rhythm. Basically, the timing. If your timing is absolutely perfect on par and you never missed a beat within those particular attacks, like you swing your guitar at the enemy at that beat, you parried every move and everything like that, basically everything you've done matches to the beat of the music, it's going to get a higher score. But there's a small margin of error, and it is very diminishing on that section alone. The score and the time I found to be relatively easy to S-rank. The true rhythm part, however, though, was the hardest scoring system to get through. And I kid you not, was the main thing that was preventing me from getting S-rank throughout the entire playthrough. And like I said, this falls into that same logic in which where... So really, depending on how you are with the game and depending on your skill level of rhythm-based games, depends on how likely you're going to get an S rank. For me, personally, I don't think I'm going to get an S rank anytime soon, but I'm not going to lie whenever I say this. Hi-Fi Rush is a huge recommendation in my personal opinion. Regardless if you're a pro at rhythm games, if you're a pro of action games or not, this game is worth your time. This game is worth playing through. I highly recommend it. The story, the characters, everything in this game outside of skill is purely gold. Seriously, this entire thing deserves to be watched by people. Just the entire story alone is just enjoyable. Like I said, you can play through it on normal and hard and not have any trouble with it, in all honesty, because really the story is just golden. You know, much like how in Devil May Cry the story is really good, in Hi-Fi Rush the story is just absolutely golden, absolutely wonderful. It's just, there are times whenever I was busting out laughing because of how ridiculous things got. And really, the story is just really wonderful. And I love the characters that they have made for the game. They're really enjoyable, all of them with unique sets that works with them and stuff like that. And just, in my personal opinion, when I first saw this, I literally thought that this was something that you would normally see on Disney Jetix. You know, those that... Remember those days? Do you remember those days? If you don't remember those days, chances are you're too young to even know what that is. But either way, though, yes, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that Saturday morning cartoon, which really works well for the game. You know, it has that cel-shaded look. It's very beautiful, very colorful. The world is just vibrant with energy and stuff. I just can't get enough of this game. It's really wonderful in my personal opinion. Before I give it its official rating, I do want to talk about one small saying, and unfortunately it's the most controversial topic that I'm going to be talking about because, unfortunately, despite the fact that it sounds like it might get a sequel, I don't think it's going to get a sequel, unfortunately. For those that don't know or have heard the news, Microsoft has recently got rid of the same company that basically made Hi-Fi Rush. Basically, the same developers who did that and a few other games as well was let go. Yikes. So, yeah. There goes that pipe dream. Hi-Fi Rush is an amazing game, and I really want to recommend it to as many people as I possibly can. Again, if you're not a pro at rhythm games, that's okay. It's just a game that's worth playing and enjoying, and you'll have fun with it, in my personal opinion. It just sucks the fact that this game will not see a continuation anytime soon, sadly. But at any rate though, guys, if I had to give it a rating, I'd definitely give this a 4 out of 5, easily. No conversation whatsoever. It's an easy 4 out of 5 in my personal opinion. Again, if you're not good at rhythm games like myself, that's not a bad thing. It's still a fun game. There are ways in which it makes it easier for you to get adjusted to and stuff like that. And if you're a skilled gamer or something like that, then chances are the harder modes will definitely be something that's worth working towards. And then of course there's also other modes that you can go into for the game. There's the Hall of Fame achievements to go for and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff to do in this game, so trust me whenever I say this, whether you're good or whether you're not, there's a lot to do in this game. And I highly recommend it because it's just a fun one. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next video. This is BlackCross signing off. Catch you guys later.